Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. One area that we have not had direction yet from council on is the emergency management center proposed at the police station. It would be my suggestion that we have a report back from staff on design and other matters as it relates to that, accessibility, etc.
Councillor Adair.
I was just going to move that we go ahead and do it. I mean,
my only concern,
I have nothing against the report, but
it's a bit of semantics, but it is who does it and how does it get done. And we'd just like to sort through that because it is not, quite frankly, it is a corporation facility. It is going to be used by the corporation, which includes the police department and includes the fire department, but we all have to work towards achieving the best use of that facility. So that's my politically correct comment.
Councillor Twaddle.
I absolutely agree. We need a report that spells all this out, because it's all well and good for the chair of the police services to stand up and say it's not going to cost the taxpayers any money. But the reality is that the entire police budget is either funded by taxpayers or from reserves that they've got through revenue. But if they spend the reserves they've got through revenue, then that's not being spent on taxpayer funded. So this is ultimately a taxpayer paid for facility. It's just the same as the Bayshore Community Center, where we have certain revenues and certain pieces of it are covered by the taxpayers. I think we need to have a report on what it's going to cost, who's going to do it, who's going to manage it. We do know from past experience that the police services, and this is not a criticism of the police board, I was on the board at the time, not a criticism of the staff, but doing construction projects is not something that they have a lot of familiarity or comfort with, and we do. So I think we need to have a very clear understanding of how this is going to proceed and what the costs are, how it's going to be tendered. I mean, we have no idea what it's really going to cost. Nobody's done any tenders, or there's been no design work done.
Councillor McManaman.
And I agree with the report. One thing I'd ask to be considered after the tour, there's 3 boardrooms over there, or one downstairs and then 2 upstairs. And it just, one question, I don't know the answer to this, is how often are they all in use? And, you know, as opposed to finishing a whole new room, converting one of those. And I don't know the answer to that at all, but I'd like at least if that could be addressed or looked into. Thank you.
The letter from Police Services Board, is that on Monday's council agenda? We've all, okay. Sir Adair?
trying to figure how to, we need to go ahead and have this emergency operating facility. So my motion is that we proceed, and the first part of that process is to get this report. But I think we need to state that, yes, that's what we want to do, and then figure out who's going to do it.
I think we reasonably need probably till February to get that report together. Yeah.
If I may, I notice on our, going back to, I just lost it. There's something on police building. that I don't think we actually approved that section, and I have no idea where I just pushed my button and moved it to. But would move that. There is a request that, there we go, that about 5,100 from taxation be spent on the police building. Last night, our chief told us that they have approximately $400,000 in reserves that they're going to be spending on something, and I think he said there's going to be $75,000 left after that. I move that staff contact the police board and see if they can absorb this $5,000 from their own budget instead of it coming from city taxes.
I don't disagree with that, but that's police building, which is our facility, as opposed to police capital, which is the equipment that they need. So there's a distinction. This 5,100 is for the building, not for police services cap.
Thank you. That doesn't really change my mind. I'm going to leave the motion stand. If it's voted up, voted down, that's everyone's choice. But I'm going to leave the motion in place.
Exactly what is this? I'm trying to find it in my budget sheets. I'm not finding it.
I could describe it to your worship. It's 3,100 for a water treatment. I believe Craig said that this would keep the utilities over there, the pipes, from degenerating quicker than they do normally. And the other is a backup AC unit, which would be nothing more than a movable air conditioner for their server room in case it overheats. It is a backup. Hopefully it's never needed. That's what we have here. I mean, if you wish, Your Worship, I can give you a wrap on how we've done today. Still have 1, 2, 3,
Because we skipped ahead and did some.
5. Well, we haven't done the base shore yet. That's 1. We haven't done public works.
We did public works.
We did.
Okay, facilities, animal shelter,
We did the. So there's an HVAC unit at the animal shelter. There's a rug cleaning machine, I believe, for general buildings. I don't believe that's specific to the animal shelter. And then there's ongoing asbestos reports that Craig gets done.
On other facilities, looking at animal shelter, we've got a HVAC of 7,500, but we've got taxation of 3. I don't see where the other 4.5 is coming from. Am I missing? Maybe I'm not.
We have an anonymous donation from benefactors.
Sorry, I just had to slide over further. It didn't fit the screen. Sorry about that.
I believe, Your Worship, I believe we didn't discuss the police who are contributing 150 from reserve and 50,000 from taxation. I do not have a list of specifically what they're getting in that at this time, but certainly I'm pleased to hear that they're only looking for 50 from taxation.
The speaker replacement for the, I know there isn't anybody here that maybe can answer it, but is that the speaker replacement for the arena portion? Do you know, does anybody
I
know?
honestly do not know. Perhaps if you like, we could get that information and email it to all of council tomorrow. My feeling is yes, but I honestly do not know.
I didn't think that speaker system was that old in that Bay Shore. I mean, it really isn't. Okay, well, maybe if we could find that out, and I'm just interested if that's the same.
Yes, Your Worship, one of the things that sort of isn't in here, and that is the clock at the Bay Shore. From what I've heard, it's using 5 watt or 7.5 watt bulbs, about 300 of them or 400 of them, and actually generates quite a bit of heat, uses a huge amount of power. I'd like to get a staff report within the next 6 months, it's not like a rush, on where we are with the new clock and the energy consumption and the cost of servicing the existing facility. I understand when Kraft Foods were here, they wanted to display a picture of what was going on our clock, thinking it had some kind of a screen capacity, which it doesn't. So I think it's really time that we starting to look at that.
Thank you, Worship. I can just briefly, if I could, speak to that. I know after the attack negotiation was just successfully concluded now, Mr. Furness was the staff lead there, and I know the discussion that was had at the committee, that sort of the next discussion was around the clock and energy efficiency. Those were sort of the agreement, clock, energy efficiency were the three sort of pillars, if you will, of the discussion. So one's completed, and perhaps the city manager can talk further, but I think that was the understanding, that those were the next ones to come.
All right.
Councillor McManaman's quite right there. That's generally the order. The other matter that comes into this is the whole Pepsi agreement, and we're going to have a talk about the clock. We have to have a talk about the Pepsi agreement. So all of those things will need to come forward for council's discussion. It does. Pepsi's not overly happy with us. We're not overly happy with Pepsi, so only if they bring money to the table. It's on my desk. I just haven't got to it, and we will have those further discussions. So we'll bring a complete report, I guess is what I'm saying, on a variety of things that start to interconnect here.
Thank you, Your Worship. Really, through the 2 days, I think we've reviewed the budget thoroughly, and again, this comes after 3 previous days, so I think the budget's had as good a review as it has in my duration in the city. We are still at 4.68, and I'm very pleased to see that we have increased the base funding of the capital budget. I believe we have an achievable budget. This group before you tonight will work very hard to bring the year-end results in on budget, and should we see any variances throughout the year, we will be reporting those quarterly.
and we will have an update on how we're doing on capital at least twice through the year. And I believe that Her Worship and I are going to Rogers sometime in the spring to review the budget, so that will get more information before the public. So moving ahead, I think we'll do as much work as we can in the near future to get this budget operation before the public, and they will see the challenge we have and how we face them.
Just a couple of quick things. First of all, I'd like to thank both the senior management team who went to pretty extraordinary effort to get us in a timely manner on this budget. I'd particularly like to thank the police department who came to us with a budget that we could actually understand and had in time to review. And that relationship is a very positive one now, I think. One of the things that I have talked to some of the staff about, and I'll certainly say it to all of the senior management, we absolutely have to have a much more comprehensive analysis than projection on costs of the new recreation center. And that's going to be a priority for the new year, to really get that more concretely put down on paper and not just hope that it's only double what the cost of the Coliseum is. So that's going to be a major project for the new year. Council, thank you again for all the hours that you've put into the budget. It's been much appreciated by staff, and your comments are always succinct and remind us of things that perhaps we didn't delve into to the degree we should. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'd like to ask, through you to Wayne, please. The county comes in at 2.4. What does that do to our increase?
It will certainly assist our increase, the county being at 2.4, us being at 4.68, and the education rate virtually remaining the same. I wouldn't really want to speculate at this time. Our estimate of what our increase was going to be was approximately, I believe it was at $93 per residential household. The county 2.4, I would speculate, and again, there's a lot of work to be done in tax policy that will be starting next month with all of the council, but I would speculate we're probably looking at something in the neighborhood of $130 a household.
Less.
No, more.
More.
$130 total. Our 93 plus approximately, $30 for the county portion in that neighborhood. $120, $130 per household, residential.
What percentage-wise?
Oh,
I thought that when the county came
I-
in lower,
yeah.
that it lowered our percent.
I would say, top of my head, without doing the calculations by hand, something in the neighborhood of high threes, 4% total. 4%.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or discussion, council, that we have on the capital budget?
One comment, I'll be very brief. That was the most understandable budget I think we've ever had. And it's very transparent. It's much easier than some of the old formats that some of us around the table remember. And we would have a book that thick, and then another book for capital that thick. It's much more understandable and transparent.